Hi, this is Joseph Williams, son of John Williams, and you are watching the Nerf Herder Council.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Nerf Herder Council. I am your host, JT. We are live on Facebook and YouTube. We are live at those locations every other Wednesday at 8:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you are watching on YouTube, please click that like button, click that subscribe button, and smash that notification bell so that you're notified every time we go live. For example, this coming Monday, the day after Christmas, we are going live to explain to you, our trusted and valued viewers, why Die Hard is not a Christmas movie. So, again, make sure you click that notification bell so that you get notified every time we go live. We are brought to you by Audible. Go to audibletrial.com/NHC for your 30-day trial and a free audiobook download. And don't forget that you can get customizable Nerf Herder Council swag at shop.nerfherdercouncil.com. Without further ado, let me bring on my esteemed co-host, who is looking much more festive than I am, my brother AJ. What is going on, man? I'm in my typical Nerf. I'm good, but I'm in my typical Nerf Herder Council getup, and you're all Christmassy, like all Christmased up to the nines, man. I failed.
Yeah, you know, it's Christ's birth, but you're celebrating a funeral, it looks like. What the hell?
It's my favorite podcasting hat and shirt. And I actually don't have any Christmas stuff. I realized that when I was looking around today. I was like, I don't have like an ugly sweater, a cool T-shirt, like a hat. Like I don't have Christmas stuff to wear, so I just went with my usual.
Well, this Santa hat here has been sitting in my closet for a year or two now. I don't know, a long time anyway. I had to pull the tags off it to wear it tonight because, it's not one of those hats you really have much occasion to wear. So congratulations, I got a Star Wars Santa hat now, and it's Return of the Jedi themed. So it's working on multiple levels here. We're doing great tonight.
Buck Schroeder is tuning in. Thanks for checking out the show. He says, "Who the hell are you?" He's like, "What the heck?" That's what you get for randomly friend requesting somebody, Buck. You get excellent content like this on your Facebook page. So, yeah, dude, I am really looking forward to this one because, full disclosure, I really want to talk about A Christmas Story Christmas, but A Christmas Story, the original, is by far my favorite Christmas movie. So, unlike Die Hard, which is not a Christmas movie, tune in this coming Monday as we discuss that. But, yeah. Oh, look at this. Nikki Wilson Bailey, what's up?
Hey, what's up,
you.
girl?
Oh, man. Haven't seen you in forever. Hope all is well over there, Nikki. Love you. Yeah, Christmas Story is my favorite Christmas movie. I absolutely love it. I think I've watched it already like 5 or 6 times, and it's not even Christmas yet. There's always one TV in my house that's tuned to TBS for 24 hours of A Christmas Story. I'm sure, having just purchased my first home last week and now paying for electric, my wife is going to throw a fit on Christmas Day when I do that, but tough cookies. So, yeah, I absolutely love A Christmas Story. So I was very interested to find out that they were doing A Christmas Story Christmas. So I'm very excited to talk about it. Starting off, where do you stand on the original A Christmas Story?
I don't love it as much as you, but that's not really saying much because I still love it. It's really hard to love it as much as you, though. Like you said, you're going to have 24 hours of A Christmas Story going on, and you'll probably watch at least 12 of it. You are like a 5-year-old where you're like, again.
It never gets old, man. It never gets old.
I know that one kind of backwards and forwards. I don't know the new one nearly as much, but I think it's a great companion to it, actually. What I didn't know, you had to tell me this, is there was like a movie in between or 2 movies in between?
Yeah, they had like another sequel. It was one was called like My Summer Story and one was Christmas Story 2, if I remember right, and they were both just absolutely god awful. So Ugh. not good. So this is I guess considered like a proper sequel to the original. So I mean this one, it brings back Ralphie, and it has, most of the original actors except for the old man because he passed away, and the mom actually retired from acting, so that's why Julie Haggerty is playing the mom in this one. So, but it does have that nostalgia feel, and getting right into it, I'm liking the movie. Well, we'll get to that later, but my very first impression watching it the first time, I got into it, and I'm sitting there watching it. I'm like, oh, this is not very good. But then it picked up, like it got better. So I was pleasantly surprised. I went in with really low expectations.
Yeah,
loving.
we've discussed on the show before, these long-awaited comedy sequels are really a tough thing to crack.
Yeah.
We've watched so many franchises drop the ball between Bill and Ted and Coming to America and, sorry to say it, buddy, but Anchorman.
Anchorman 2 rules.
Comedies are hard to follow up. So to take all this time and then have to write another chapter in the story, I think they did a phenomenal job with it.
Okay. So what was your initial impression, like after your first, like during and after your first viewing of A Christmas Story Christmas?
Oh, this is easy for me because unlike you, I haven't had a chance to watch it more than once. So I've only got the first experience.
Okay.
I don't want to get too much into a therapy session on this show, but I will say that there a lot of the personal stories going on for these characters in here really resonated with me because of stuff that we've got going on in our family.
Okay. Yeah.
I love how they still worked in the character of the father, even though the actor isn't around to play him.
Yeah.
Like he still felt like central to the story, and the characters even said as much. They're like, yeah, it feels like Dad's still here. And it really did. It was really cool that way.
Yeah.
The same way we go through Christmases and we can remember people that we've lost in our family. But, when we sing E Compare at the DeRosa Family Christmas, or, when I go and read A Christmas Carol to myself, I'm thinking of all the people that aren't there at the time or aren't here anymore at all. But, it feels like they're still there anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, I would completely agree with it. I think they did an excellent job, first of all, with the nostalgia of it. And they, the first review that I read before I watched the movie, the reviewer was complaining like, oh, they just basically rehashed the original. And
not true.
You know what, though? After watching it a few times, I could see why they would, and they really like laid it out as to why that was. And, they had the flashbacks and, all the callbacks, like when he's bribing the editor and he gives him, the candy thing or whatever, and the guy opens the drawer and there's all that crap in there. It's like, that's like, the teacher in the classroom in the original stuff. So they had all that stuff. But I think it was done tastefully, and I don't think you could do this movie without that. If you're coming to watch a sequel to a Christmas Story, it's a very beloved movie. Like I just said, it's my favorite Christmas movie by far. I watch it year round. I love it. And, if you're going to tell me, hey, here's a sequel, okay, and Ralphie's the main character, okay, well, I'm instantly going to go, okay, where's Flick? Where's Schwartz? Are they going to have Scut Farkas? Are they going to have Grover Dill? Like, where's the old man? Where's Randy? That's what you want, and they gave it to you. So right off the bat, you feel like you're in that universe. And even though it was derivative of the original, I don't think you can do it without it because it was such a unique movie. It's not just a paint-by-numbers A to B comedy about Christmas. Like, it's very weird, with it being told by a narrator and, the little kid flashbacks. You know what I mean? It's like, to me, that's what makes it so endearing, is the fact that you experience this. Like, yeah, when I was like 12 years old, 11 years old, this is what Christmas was to me. I was that excited. Mm-hmm. I wanted that, the holy grail of presents, so I think you have to get back into that environment, or else it's just, why even do it at all? You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. Like you said, the tone was established in the first movie. And you got to stick to that formula somewhat because you can't change it up, especially in a comedy. Like, you you know the style of humor that you're in for, and you've got to stick to it. It's like, we both enjoyed Ghostbusters 3 or Ghostbusters Afterlife, but I had a hard time getting into that for a while because I went in there expecting an Ivan Reitman movie, and his son doesn't really make movies in the same way. So I'm like, I'm seeing all the Ghostbusters things, but I don't feel like I'm watching a Ghostbusters movie right now.
The tone of it,
Whereas this one, well, it leaned in a little too hard to start, but then it just felt right after a while,
Yes. Yeah, that's what I meant. Like that's a great way to phrase it, because that's what I was thinking when it first started out. I was like, ooh, I don't know about this. But then probably like 20 minutes in or something, it really started to, I hate using this term.
Cheers. Eggnog.
Oh, cheers. White Claw. But it's lime, so it's green. So, yeah, it really, again, I hate using this movie reviewer term, but found its footing. Because at first I was like, oh boy.
God.
And then
Look at that glass now. Sorry.
that's got to be healthy for you.
Yeah, right.
Riveting audio for our audio listeners.
Yeah. Liquid
but-
lard. That's what I'm drinking.
Yeah, like I said, it's just like it started to get better, and I was, like I said at the beginning, I was going, I don't know about this.
Mm-hmm.
But then as it started getting more into it, it started to really kind of flow, and you got more into it, and especially, it had those, again, with the tone, it had that kind of ridiculous feel to it. Like when he first goes to Flick's bar, and the phone rings, and all the guys are like, "Oh my God!" Like, what if it's their wife calling him at the bar? It's like, and you get the town drunk or whatever, like, who used to be the quarterback, and that guy's a trip, and he just looks ridiculous. So you had that going on, and again, like pretty early on, they introduce, you bring back, Flick and Schwartz, which that's just right there. And then, it's just like, and they, it sounds stupid, but they shared that big hug after, Schwartz is doing the I don't know what the game's called, but that shuffleboard thing, the manual.
It's called shuffleboard. Yeah,
Is
it's
it?
really
Okay.
confusing.
Oh, okay. But yeah, so he's playing shuffleboard, and then they see Ralphie, and like, Ralphie, and they have that hug, and you're like, oh man, they're back together. But then they make it adult. You've got them all like drinking together, and then he ends up getting hammered off his ass, and he's got this stupid list sitting next to him, all hungover in bed, facing the wrong way the next morning. Like, and it's just that's what you were hoping for, is like to see the three kids back together. So, yeah, I was really happy that it got back into it, and again, I can see where that reviewer was saying that it is kind of a ripoff of the first one. But I don't know where you stand. I don't think you could make this movie without doing that. Where do you stand on that?
Can you remember the specific points that the reviewer said it was a ripoff of the first one? Because I think maybe the overall structure, but as far as like the plot itself, I don't think it's a ripoff at all.
Well, okay, so they've got the car that doesn't work. So that's a thing. There's he named a bunch of them, and like the flashbacks. It's the same type of a thing. They kind of follow the same narrative, and even to the point, they've got Ralphie and Black Bart in the one. You've got the bullies. It's you got the triple dog dare thing with this one is with the ramp instead of the the flagpole, like, and it's just like it kind of revisits the old bits but modernized. And I get it, but I'm not opposed to it, and I don't think it stands out like something like Episode 7 ripping off A New Hope, like that. It's on screen, you're going, dude, this is Episode 4. Whereas I think when you're watching this one, you're just like, okay, it's Ralphie having adventures again.
Yeah, I think where I really like this one is it does revisit some of the, it does have callbacks to the original, of course, which it kind of has to, but also at the same time, I really like this idea of having Ralphie step into the role of being the dad in this one. So, because we can all relate to that. We were we were 12 once. We had the kids' Christmas, and now that we're middle-aged men, unfortunately, now we've got all these adult challenges. And how many times in your life, especially since you've met your wife and her kids and whatnot, have you had to do a parenting thing and just taken a step back and been like, holy crap, I have to do this now. Like I'm the adult.
Yeah.
It's a weird changing of roles like that. And so I loved seeing, this kid that I watched in this movie now being my age, dealing with things that I could relate to at my age now.
Yeah.
And the fact that they set it, perfectly forward in time. So it was the 40s was the first one, and this one was the 80s. So
70s.
they basically aged the characters up. 70s, yeah. So they aged the characters up basically perfectly for the time gap in real life.
Yeah.
So I thought it was really that's where I feel like it really hit the right tone with the original, where for the character of Ralphie, I feel like you could get behind him in both movies, because if you were a kid when the first one came out, you were behind him because you related, and now you're his same age now and you relate to his struggles now.
Yeah.
The one thing I will say is that I don't think this one is as good a movie for kids, because the main focus is on Ralphie, the adult. So kids aren't really going to be able to relate to his struggles so much.
Okay. I mean, that's so Jeremy Dyer, my buddy Merle, tuning in. Thanks for watching, dude. He says, I thought the new one was better. Okay. That's a strong take, dude. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, feel free to elaborate on that one.
Yeah. See, I don't know what the target audience was for the first one. I don't know if it was meant for kids or if it was kind of like just a family-friendly thing. But I feel like this one was made. This is one of those movies that's not made to appeal to, okay, let's broaden the Christmas Story fan base.
Right.
Like this is just like, hey, did you like A Christmas Story? Here's the sequel. Like, so it's pandering to people like me. So let's say I had seen it in 1983 when I'm 7 years old. I'm gonna love it then. So it's like, okay. Merle's saying it right now. He says, probably because I'm an adult now and this one was made for us. Yeah, like it's aimed at us, the fans of A Christmas Story. It's not, hey, introduce your kids to this yada yada. It's like, no, this is for those of you who already love it. This is for the fat idiot in Cleveland, Ohio, who keeps one television in the house tuned to 24 Hours of A Christmas Story every Christmas. Like the movie was written for people like me, and I love that. Again, it's kind of that Rise of Skywalker thing where it's fan service, and some people may hate fan service types of things, and I personally don't. So whether or not it can be watched with kids,
there's a right way to do fan service and a wrong way to do fan service, and I think this did it right. It hit the
I would
callbacks, but it changed it up a little bit too. Like you said, they repeated the triple dog dare, but you were kind of waiting for it. It's like a greatest hits album from a band. When a band has like such a large discography and then they go on tour 20 years later, you're like, I want to hear the hits. This is what I want to hear. As long as they play these things, then I'm good. So yeah, A Christmas Story tread over the same old jokes a couple of times. Good. I think that's perfect.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. I'm probably,
and the whole crux. Sorry, man. I keep cutting you off.
good.
I just keep coming up with stuff.
You're good.
The crux of the story being that like Ralphie has this problem and he's trying to put on the best Christmas for his family, instead of the childish focus of like, I want this thing. I want this thing.
Yeah.
Like that's not a rehash at all, because the focus was not the parents in the first one. In fact, they were punchlines, really.
Yeah.
So to get behind the parents in this one, and the mom also, Julie Haggerty knocked it out of the park. I love
Right.
her in this movie.
Yep.
I thought it was fantastic, and it does change it up. So I got to have all the same jokes and all the same feels, but also I had a new story to follow too.
Yeah. I think this one is kind of like, I would say if there was a sequel that I could liken this to, at least for me personally, I would say it's kind of like Top Gun Maverick, because Top Gun has been built up in my mind over the years to this legendary status. And if they're going to do a second one, I'm like, okay, I went in expecting it to be Maverick to be a big piece of shit. And it wasn't as fun as the first movie. I mean, Maverick is better as a sequel than A Christmas Story Christmas, let's be honest. But it's still like I was in the Top Gun world with Maverick. Like I had those feelings, and it had that vibe to it. And I think A Christmas Story Christmas does that too, where you kind of it's again, after the first like 20 minutes, once it starts settling in, you're back in that environment, and it's like you're getting what you wanted. Like you like Ralphie's voiceovers, and you like the stupid flashbacks, and yet the humor, like there's some really intelligent stuff in there. There's some really funny stuff in there. Like I mean, just goofy little things, like when the mom and the wife are getting drunk, while Ralphie's Christmas shopping, and the wife says something like, oh man, I should have eaten before this, and she's like, well, I got a candy cane in my purse. Like these little one-off lines that just kind of like add something to it, and it's it's funny, and you find yourself, at least for me, again, I'm a diehard fan of the first movie, and speaking of Die Hard, we're going to be talking on Monday about how Die Hard's not a Christmas movie, but I found myself getting hit in the feels like properly. It didn't feel like it was pandering. It's just like, hey man, like they went back into that world in a way that worked, and not many sequels to something that's like this iconic can pull that off. So I loved it for that reason.
Yeah, and they kept it. So the stakes were, quote, high. I mean, let's face it, there aren't high stakes in either movie, but it did seem increasingly dire throughout, just like the first one. But it didn't get too dark, like especially when they started with Dad's dead. Like, oh, this could be a real downer of a movie.
Yeah.
And like, so once they got kind of past that, I was thinking like, oh, are they really going to focus on poor mom being alone as a widow at Christmas? And they didn't really do that either.
No.
It might not be like true to life, but it makes for a better movie.
Yeah.
That would have been such a somber follow-up to the first one, to just be like, yeah, your parents are, one's dead and the other one's sad about it. Merry Christmas. Like,
yes. Yes. That's exactly, I was going to mention that. It's like there wasn't the sad bastard moment of, like the specter of the old man was hanging over the movie, but in like a good way. Like he's a Christmas legend. We got to try and live up to the Christmas legend. It wasn't like, oh my God, he had prostate cancer and it spread, and then he had chemo and mom's eating casserole. Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, so yeah, it had like serious themes to it here and there, but they were handled as completely lighthearted stuff. The kid goes to the emergency room, but
Do you remember casseroles being a thing after funerals, or did we just not know enough people who died?
It was a thing. I don't remember it being casserole, but I remember people would bring meals over, like you cook for the family when someone dies, so that they don't have to worry about doing that. I don't remember it being casserole, but I mean, good God, boy, that's another thing they nailed, because holy mother, they must have, like Ralphie and Flick and Schwartz and the town drunk guy just sat around coming up with a Christmas list, like buffalo, I got a terrarium, like a tomahawk, like stuff like that. Like those guys must have just sat down and said, just mention a food, like mustard, okay, mayonnaise, okay, onions, okay, blueberries, okay, and just made up these horrific casseroles out of it, like just to say, okay, let's see what what's the most disgusting thing we possibly could find. Like I don't remember that either. To your point about Julie Haggerty, Merle says she was great. I have mixed feelings because I would have loved for the original mom to be in it. I was upset she decided to stay retired, but as you said, Julie Haggerty crushed it. So, yep, totally agree with you there, man. Yeah, like the movie never gets heavy. And I think that's one of the reasons that it works, is that they, again, and maybe this could be something you could accuse it of being a rehash by doing, but it doesn't get heavy, even though when you grow up, man, things get serious, and things aren't as fun, and this movie, like, you have like the adult themes of fatherhood and losing a parent and stuff, but it doesn't grow up. It's still in that vein. And it's like, look, man, people are here to watch A Christmas Story, not to learn life lessons. It's like, it's an homage to Christmas. It's an homage to the first movie, and it's an homage to the old man. and
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even to the point where you notice in the attic with all the old crap laying around, they show the BB gun once and it's like all dusty, and then they show the leg lamp. It's all like they didn't even do that. Like, oh, we're gonna go get the leg lamp and it's gonna be this this freaking the center of the room again. It's like no, they were just like that's that's times have changed, and as much as I would have loved to see it like that, I think to your point, and I have a feeling you're gonna agree with this. That would have been too much to go. Hey, here's the leg lamp. Here's the bunny suit or anything and everything like that. It's like, but they didn't. So you had to have loved that.
Yeah, exactly. Like your Force Awakens comparison. They just had the things in the background. If you saw them, you saw them, and if you know, you know. It's not Finn holding up the training droid in front of the camera like, see this? Remember this? Okay, I'm going to put it down now.
That's the Death Star. No, bigger.
Right, exactly. The other thing that I loved about it was that we know this too. Like, we've got a podcast, and I'm looking like a friggin' moron over here in my gingerbread hoodie and a Star Wars Santa hat, right?
Right.
Like, just because you're, quote, grown up doesn't mean you're all grown up. Like, you still got that inner kid in you.
Yep.
So for Ralphie to go home to his hometown and immediately kind of regress to like childhood behaviors with his childhood friends, absolutely true.
Yeah.
Absolutely true. When we get together with the Dixons, we're a bunch of morons.
Yep.
We're not a bunch of responsible 40-year-olds.
Right. Yeah. All right. So Merle has a question. He says, "Were you like me and thought during the scene when the trunk opened and thought did you think the kids were going to see the presents?" I did not. I was actually that part bummed me out because the movie was light and happy and everything's going on, and then all of a sudden the trunk, I was like, okay, they're all leaving. Like, shit, what's gonna happen here? So I was like, damn, here comes one of the bummer parts of the movie. So I didn't think they were going to see them necessarily, but I figured something bad was about to happen. So
yeah, I was watching that scene, and when the trunk opened, I figured they would be gone. But just like you root for Anakin to not turn to the dark side in Episode 3, I was like, please have it turn out that they're all there and it was just a fake out. Like, don't.
Right?
No, man. Oh.
Yeah, it's like you're so invested. You just want it to keep rolling along. Like, oh, they got the presents. It's a good Christmas. Funny, hilarity ensues.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, damn it. All right, I guess they got to have some sort of, strenuous situation, in this, I guess.
Right,
like,
and not a Clark Griswold where it just goes flying out the back because he's a moron,
Right? Oh, man.
What did you think about their handling of Randy?
I thought it was fine. I mean, Randy was not like a main character in the first one anyway, as much, he was in this one less, but it wasn't like, Randy only had a couple scenes where he was really kind of featured in the first one. So, it didn't bother me. What I did think was awesome though was, the one main scene he was in where he was like calling home from India and he's like, oh yeah, I'm at the airport now. Like, adult Randy, but then Ralphie goes into Big Brother mode, like, oh, she got out of bed and she said one word, Randy. He's like, no, Ralphie, no. Like, she ate something today, half a cracker. He's like, a cracker? Like, and he turns into like a little kid. So they had that kind of relationship. I was like, that is awesome. Like that's one thing, dude. Like, I've seen it now 3 times. And I've enjoyed it more each time that I've watched it. And I think it's because you know it's coming, so you're kind of noticing more things rather than the surface viewing that you give it the first time or even the second time. And just the way that they handle the stuff is perfect. I mean, it's it's like this, okay, well, Randy's really successful. Okay, cool. But then when it really comes down to it, he reverts right back into the Randy that we know. Come on, Ralphie. And I loved it, man. I loved it. So
dude, by the time he showed up at the end, I wasn't expecting it. I had forgotten about him.
Yeah.
When they pulled the whole like, oh, he's in India, I'm like, well, that's how they write out that character. Okay.
Yeah.
On with the story. But yeah, I'm glad that they did that though, because especially with the focus of this one being on Ralph. Do we call him Ralph or Ralphie? I mean, he's a grown up in this one now, so he's Ralph.
No, he's Ralphie.
Okay, fine. He's Ralphie. So focusing on Ralphie and his family, I feel like if Randy was in it and it became like a brother thing instead, I don't think it would have hit the same, you know?
Yeah. No, I agree. I completely agree. I just, again, I love how they handled it. It, it was, again, something they go back to that just makes it feel like, yeah, this is what I came here for. And the over dramatic Ralphie on the phone, like she ate half a cracker. Meanwhile, he's waving down the hall. Mom's waving back, like, "Hey, what's going on?"
Right.
I mean, it's just, it's done. It's done so well, and even to the point, like the ending, like you get to the end of this thing, and it's the end of two movies, really, and the whole thing turns into this giant get together. It's like, okay, this is like the meaning of Christmas right here. It's like, you get all your friends and family together and you just have this, it was so cool. And then for the whole thing to be, basically centered around, you had the feel good thing of Ralphie publishing a story. After getting turned down all the time, but then it's again, it's the old man. Like the old man kind of made that Christmas. After all, it was like he was still there and his spirit kind of, so it was like, it gets better and better as I watch it because you notice these little things. And
yeah, even that ending was a swerve for me, which I loved. Like,
yeah,
I thought the way they were going to resolve it was just that Ralphie learned a lesson that being a writer wasn't everything in life. So for him to actually like pay off and be a writer in the most unexpected way, I was like, that's, sounds cheesy, but that's just delightful, right? I mean, it's just a feel good moment.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, he actually like got something positive. He had to write this memoriam for his father, and that ends up being his best writing. So you take this like dark event, and it turns out to be like this great catalyst for him and his family. It's fantastic.
Yeah. It's the whole thing just hits all the right notes, and especially and maybe I'm partial to it because I went into it expecting nothing. And I got something. Maybe that's why, because it's just like, oh my God, this is actually like not only like tolerable, but it's actually pretty good. It's one of those few sequels I could think of that actually kind of nails it. Like, I mean, dude, something like Coming to America. I mean, it's that iconic, and it doesn't have the vibe. It does like it's like it sounds stupid to say this, but they curse one time. I mean, part of the humor of Coming to America was the vulgarity of some of the jokes, and they had none of that in the new. And it was just like all soft and family. It's like, what? I didn't come here to see that crap. Like, I want to see like the homeless guy falling down the stairs. He's like, "Hey, Stu, red Stu, motherfucker!" Like, and the guy lifted up his head and farting. Like, like I want to see that, but you get none of that. That's why as much as people shit on Bill and Ted 3, at least they tried to make it like a Bill and Ted movie. So I give it credit. I mean, it wasn't very good, but at least the effort was there. But this one really, really nails it. And I mean, it's throughout the whole damn movie.
Like you said, there's so many times where they could take something because it could be a heavy thing, and they just choose not to, or they make light of it. Like, did you expect like me? Because as I was watching it, I'm just running down in my head like, all right, what are all the tropes of a story like this? Well, Ralphie's going to screw something up, and the wife is going to get pissed at him. So his relationship is hanging by a thread because he's botching everything. And that never happened. Like, he ends up hungover with that hilarious list in the bed after the night of drinking, and she's just like rolling with it. I was like, that's awesome. That is so cool, because that could have been the moment where like, I'm going to take the kids and you sort this out. Like, oh, God.
Yeah.
Or, the old quarterback at the bar where he's, just the town drunk now. And that could be played as like, this guy's down in his luck and alcoholism is bad and addiction is terrible. And they're just like, he's drunk and he lost his hair.
And he looks hilarious too.
Yeah, exactly.
Like when the phone rings the first time and he's like, He's got that look on his face. You're like,
Right.
I was like, oh my God, this is hilarious. And then you're like, nope, sorry, not here. And then he's like, oh, and he puts like a 10 in the tip jar. I mean, you're so right, dude. Like every time that it hit on something where it could get heavy, they purposely steered away from it. And again, I just feel like whoever wrote this really, really understood that people are here to watch A Christmas Story.
Mhm.
So, which I thought even down to the title of the movie, originally I'm like, well, that's unoriginal as shit. A Christmas Story, Christmas. But it makes total sense now because, they're like, look, it's a Christmas story. That's what you're watching. Just face it. So it's A Christmas Story, Christmas, and it's really what it is. And I mean, it's again, I can't wait to rewatch it because it's just so enjoyable. Like, I mean, I seriously might tonight go watch both of them back to back, like just to see what it feels like to get into the first one, and then when it's so fresh on your mind, to just fast forward 30 years and see what's going on in the second one. Like, again, I can't say enough good things about it. It's not a perfect movie. I wouldn't say it's great. I might change my mind down the road because it is growing on me. But as a fan of the original, like a super fan of the original, I thought it was great. I thought it was absolutely great. And I mean, so, man, for anybody watching or listening that has not checked it out, I would really highly recommend it. I mean, don't go in expecting War and Peace and don't expect it to be on par with the first one. But I mean, if you like the first one, there's more than enough there. I think.
I think you might be selling it short a little bit. Like you said, A Christmas Story, Christmas. It's like a layer on top of the original, and this is that.
Yeah.
It's the continuing adventures of Ralphie.
Yeah.
Down the road. They're not trying to outdo the first. They're not trying to remake the first. They're just like, hey, these characters continued living, and this is what their lives became.
Yeah.
So I thought it was perfect. They balanced enough familiarity because he was back in his hometown after he had moved away, and he, like I said, regressed kind of to being the same character a little bit as he was in the first movie, but facing different challenges, or sometimes trying to do it differently, but ending up doing exactly what his dad did.
Yeah.
With the presents and the tree and saving Christmas at the last minute with a big swerve that the kids weren't expecting. And
yeah.
So to that reviewer's point that you were talking about, the points that they chose to retread were well chosen, I think.
Yes.
It was fun to watch, and it made sense for the characters to retread a few story beats because, everybody in their own family has their traditions and they do stuff a certain way. So when it's your turn to run the show, you run it kind of the same way.
Yeah.
So I thought it was great. I thought it was cool. And I also thought it was really nice how, with the mom, instead of turning it all over to her, she just kind of was like, it's your turn now, Ralphie. This is, you are now the patriarch of this family. You take this on.
Yep.
Instead of this whole like, I'm uncertain, I don't know how to do this. She's just like, you're going to do it anyway. You thought your dad had it all figured out? Not true. But he muddled through anyway, and you'll do the same.
Yep.
And I love that. Like, how many times we've had great years, you and I. We are very blessed to be where we're at in life right now.
Totally agree.
But how many times have we both called mom and been like shitting our pants a little bit? Like, how do we handle this? Like, I never thought I'd be in this position. I'm not equipped for this. She's like, you will. You can. Now go do it. I'm not going to tell you how. You figure it out like everybody else.
Yep. Yeah. No, you make excellent points, and something you just mentioned about how they didn't make it like, okay, well, the mom has to take over the mantle now type of thing. Like they did have some really cool things where that was concerned, like when the fuse blew. Because in the first one, he's like, yeah, my old man could change a fuse in 10 seconds, whatever. And he's like, he bought him by the gross, and the thing blows out. And Ralphie gets up in the dark. He's like, I got this. She goes, no, I'm going to have to learn to do these things for myself. Like, that's about as close as they got, to something serious like that. And, something else that I wanted to mention about how well they handled certain things was the kids and Scott Farkas. Like, I mean, the Scott Farkas one's obvious because to have him come back as a cop, like, and say, oh, that time that you handed my ass to me, like, that turned his life around. Like, that's that's hilarious. And
Yeah.
I just and the way that guy acts, and he just like overacts like as the good guy cop. It was just like, I mean, it's so good. So I loved how they did that, and I think one of the most pleasant surprises for me were Ralphie's kids. Because if you're going to modernize it, which, right off the bat, you see the kids are kind of like modern kids. They're not that throwback to the 40s like most of the other characters. In a lot of movies that do this, like the kids are like cynical douchebags and they're just a-holes, and you know what I mean? Like, but these kids, like, you could tell they're modern kids, but they still kept even that light. They were funny and they went through stuff like, the little girl got emotional here and there, like, but she was a little girl. So again, another example of something that could have been handled poorly, but they handled it brilliantly, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I love the solution to the bullying too, which was let the kids figure it out for themselves.
yeah,
It was perfect.
it was. And I love, like, what did the mom say? Like, I had a problem like that when I was your age. And I said, well, what did you do? And mom says, he beat the snot out of that kid. Like,
Yeah.
and you can see him like, and the whole family's like, what? Ralphie beat the shit out of somebody? Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, like that's not the lesson we're supposed to be teaching our kids.
I know. So, yeah, I mean, oh, and one thing I just thought of this, and I wanted to ask you. Since when is there a second half of the damn Christmas Story house? Did you notice that? Like, the fireplace, but then there's a whole nother room. Like, I was like, where did this come from? Like, did mom did mom and the old man get an addition put on or some shit? Like, what is that?
That's like some Doctor Who TARDIS shit where you walk in and it's like twice as big on the inside. Like,
I know.
we've been to that house. We know right where that house is, and it is not that big.
Yeah.
That is very clearly not the same house.
Now I know this damn thing was filmed in Bulgaria. God damn it. Like, yeah. No,
That actually had me wondering. I was hoping to spot more Cleveland stuff in the other scenes, but I don't think they got anything but the house in there, did they?
No.
Like, I didn't recognize the bar or any of that stuff.
No.
I also forgot. This is how infrequently I watch it compared to you. I forgot in the original that it wasn't set in Cleveland.
No,
The scenes are so iconic with Public Square and Higbee's and all that sort of stuff, and to find out, oh no, Cleveland's just standing in for where in Indiana, you said?
No, it wasn't even filmed in Cleveland. The house part was, but yeah, no.
I thought that was Public Square in the original.
Nope, it was not. It's famous. That's why they call it Cleveland Street, though, because the house is obviously in Cleveland. But no, it was not filmed in Cleveland. Yeah, it's Homan, Indiana. If I have my spelling right, I think it's Hohman. I think, but
God, that place is probably not even real.
Right. So yeah,
Can't trust anything anymore.
Yeah, dude, again, this movie just hit all the right elements, I think, of the original, and for me, nothing's ever going to be as funny as that one. I mean, to this day, every single time I watch the original, like, I'm quoting it, I'm laughing my nuts off, like, it's just stupid little things like after Flick puts his tongue on the lamp pole, and he's sitting there with the bandage around his tongue in the classroom, and she's like, "Don't you feel bad for poor Flick?" And he's sitting at his desk making that look like all sad, like little things like that, and like he's got his damn tongue stuck to there, and he's like, "Ralphie, come back!" He's like, "But the bell rang!" And you're like, and that is like how a kid would react. It's like, well, shit, the bell rang. I'm gonna get in trouble. So
yeah, like that's the worst thing ever. Forget about the frostbite on the tongue and everything. I might get in trouble.
Right. I was so glad they brought back like the overacted, like the dream sequences or whatever you want to call them, because that stuff like where Ralphie goes blind in the first one, he's like, it was soap poisoning. And then the old man's like, "Oh, I told you not to use Lifebuoy." And like, so, what brought you to this lowly state? It's so funny, man. And just the old man is so hilarious. When you hear like the friggin' goblin pumpkin rabble rouser, like all the stuff, like the quote unquote curse words coming up, and I mean, I could never stop laughing whenever he's like, ah, it's a clinker, and stuff like when he goes running. When he goes like running to the back, he goes, not a finger. Like there's so many quotable lines by the old man. That's like, oh my God, it's so funny. And I mean, he was like such a huge part of that first movie. And to go back to something you said earlier in the show, the sequel really does a good job of keeping him around, even though he's not there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like his his spirit is still there, and it's like they're trying to live up to him and him being like the master of Christmas, and I thought have every once in a while like they'd have like the little the quote of his like real quiet in the background, and I mean they just did a phenomenal job of keeping him in the movie. And I mean whoever wrote this thing obviously either is like a huge fan of the movie like me, or really studied it well and understood the vibe of the original and how fun and innocent it really was, and I think that shows like it again, going back to kind of something that you said earlier. The first one, like we were into it because it's like you remember what it's like to be a kid, and it's like you all of us had, the air rifle, the Holy Grail presents that you wanted. But as an adult, even though things get serious, it's Christmas does still bring you back to being a kid, and you're not that fully like serious, the sky is falling type of person. Like you kind of revert to childhood a little bit, and I think that the sequel really hit the spirit of that really, really well.
Yeah, and it's fantastic because, I mean, there's plenty of stuff. We were just talking before we went on camera about some stuff going on in our family, and, some people are choosing to dwell on the negative, but there's still so much. I capped the phone call off with, well, we've still got each other to see on Christmas, and that's something to be grateful for right there. And that's always my thing. Whenever people are getting sad around Christmas, I'm like, man, this is a time of year where, like, between Thanksgiving and Christmas, it's just a month and a half of counting your blessings. And I love that, like, instead of trying to make some big dramatic statement about Christmas, it's just, no, remember this lighthearted thing that you enjoyed back in the day? Well, here's more of that.
Yeah.
It's like, have another slice of pie. It'll make you feel better.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, that's exactly what I want, because it's way too easy as adults to be focusing on all the stuff that's not going right or that you wish was different or better. So to have a movie like this come along and just hit all those notes to send you right back to that happy childhood memory that you have of it, love it so much.
Yeah, and I think and a lot of people complain about movies that kind of rehash the first one or the second one, like where it's like, okay, it didn't expand, didn't add anything to the lore. It's like, but I think in a movie like this, like if you were to get something different, you would not enjoy it. Like it's not what you're here for. Like I said, they tried A Christmas Story 2. It was abysmal. A Summer Story was even worse. And, if you're sitting down to watch this, the whole point is that you want A Christmas Story. And they're like, well, here you go. Like, we're not breaking the mold. We're not changing anything. It's just like, hey, it's Ralphie, but he's a grown-up now. So, yeah. It was really cool, and it was, and again, it's so weird because like it's taken me multiple viewings to kind of get to that point. Because at first I was like, yeah, it's okay, it's pretty good. I got into it, but it's like as you watch it more and then watch the original a few times, you really understand what a great job they did with this movie, and to bring things full circle. Like I said very early in the show, it's the tonality of it. I can't think of another sequel besides something like Star Wars, which is its own universe. But, it's hard to think of another sequel to such a classic film that feels pretty much exactly the same as the first one. Something always changes, especially when you go, 40 years between, between making these movies. Like, and it really didn't. it just
It's a tough
didn't.
balancing act, right? Like you can't
Yep.
make the exact same movie because people will, revolt against that. But you can't stray too far from it because otherwise, it's not the same movie, and people are going to revolt against that.
Yeah.
So to put this out there and be like, okay, we're doing a 40-year ago period piece, the same way the first one was a 40-year ago period piece, but we're doing it 40 years later. So we're going to give you an 80s-ish or 70s-ish feeling movie because that's kind of what the first one did for the 40s back when it came out. So I think it was that perfect balance of like moving the in-universe story along and the tone of it tweaked just enough so us kids that are now grown-ups have all the things we need to latch onto. All
Yeah.
the old stuff that we want to remember and all the new experiences we've had since we've grown up and become the parents and had to do all this stuff for our kids.
Yep. Yeah, I totally agree with that, man. It's like even just talking about it, I'm like, man, this is better than I thought it was. Like I said, I'm really excited to go watch it again and kind of
Yeah. And to your point, like you were saying, like expectations are a big deal. I went into it like you, not expecting much. So actually, when you watched it first and you were like, dude, it's actually really good. I was like, whoa. Like
yeah.
that is a sacred film to follow up. And you're like, it's actually good.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I guess I'll give this a shot. Like that was such a pleasant surprise right there.
Yeah.
Like I figured once you said that they were coming out with it, I was like, oh God, I know exactly what our show is going to be. It's going to be me trying to convince you that lightning can't strike twice, and you should just lower your bar a little bit and let this one exist. And instead, you're like, no, actually, it's really good. You need to check this out. I was like, yes. We get to have an all positive show, but have like all different reasons to say it's positive.
When I came up with the idea for the show, I expected literally that's why I titled it A Tale of Two Christmas Stories, because I expected it to be half talking about the new one, kind of like a review and our thoughts, and the other half just kind of talk about how kick-ass the original is, because it is. Let's face it, it's a perfect Christmas movie. And we spent the whole show
We've
talking
forgotten
about
to
the
really
original.
talk about the first one, haven't we?
Yeah, we can probably touch on that on Monday when we do our special episode explaining why Die Hard is not a Christmas movie. So we can, because since A Christmas Story is a Christmas movie and Die Hard just fucking is not, which is why we're doing a whole off episode to explain it. Because if I have to explain that to people one more effing time, Bruce Willis himself said it, for God's sakes. So a little preview of Monday there. Yeah,
Which, by the way, that's a totally free-form, loose, off-the-rails show. So anything you guys want, stay active in the chat. We will talk about anything.
Yeah.
But we'll probably circle back around to how Die Hard is not a Christmas movie.
Oh yeah, we're definitely doing that. I posted that on my Facebook
Drinks will
page.
be had, by the way. That is a drinking show.
Yeah, it is. Hey,
I
I'm
got
off
a
of work
12-pack
for
of
2
hard
weeks.
Mountain Dew just waiting to be cracked open.
Man, you're into that stuff. This is like
It's only the second pack I've had.
my cat is going crazy. Apparently, he's all about this movie too. He's over here just not leaving me alone. He's probably on audio in the replay, but yeah, but I mean, getting back to it real quick, and it's just like you said, the expectations were, I honestly expected like the biggest piece of shit ever. And again, the first time I was like, okay, well, it's pretty good. I like it. And it's one of those movies that it just keeps growing on me the more I watch it. So, and it's exciting for me because now I can add this to, my Christmas my Christmas tradition, because, now that I own a home, just closed last week, I'm going to be doing Christmas stuff. Like I haven't had Christmases like properly in 20 years or something. And I told my wife, I said, we're doing this. We're getting the tree. Case in point with Christmas Story, I'm buying
Real
the
tree?
most. She wants the fake tree. So
Divorce.
yeah. Well, what are you gonna do? I can't really complain because she's not giving me any crap for spending $700 on the most deluxe leg lamp there is with the wooden fragile crate. So yeah, I'm doing that, and like I say, I always keep a 24 hours of a Christmas Story going on one TV all day on Christmas. And now, leading up to it, I have 2 movies to watch.
Yeah.
So I don't,
So before we get out of here, I have one more question about that.
okay.
TBS runs 24 hours of A Christmas Story. Or is it TNT? I forget.
I think it's TBS.
No, it doesn't matter. Okay, so TBS runs 24 hours of Christmas Story. How would you feel if they made it 24 hours of A Christmas Stories, if they could? Like, if it was first one,
That'd be
second one,
great.
first one, second one.
That'd be
So
great.
you would sub out 12 hours of A Christmas Story for A Christmas Story Christmas?
Yeah, dude. So me having it on the television, like I don't sit there and watch it. To me, it's one of those things. It's like it's Christmas, and if my favorite movie can be playing on a loop the whole damn day, that's what I want. And I'll come in and out of the room, and there's always a joke. Like that movie is funny all the way through, and so I could just walk in the room, and there's it might be the end of the movie with the Bumpuses eating the turkey. It's like, son of a bitchin' Bumpuses! like the old man shrieking like that. And like, it could be that, it could be right at the beginning, that stupid stocking cap and that dumb round face, I just walk in the room here and there, and there's A Christmas Story. And to me, I'm like, okay, it's Christmas. Because it's like Santa Claus for an adult. Like, it only comes around once a year. So if I walk into the room at any given time and I see A Christmas Story, no matter what I'm doing, that means it's Christmas. So if they're gonna add the second one and just have it be like A Christmas Story and then A Christmas Story, Christmas, like, and just do it like back to back to back all the time, like, hell yeah, that just adds to the tradition. And isn't that what traditions are about? Is like, you have them, but part of the fun of Christmas is enhancing them for another generation and adding to them and expanding them. And that would really be like the spirit of Christmas, to add the sequel to it, don't you think?
Yeah, like you said, traditions evolve over time. That's what the great thing about them. I can't think of a better way to get the hell out of here. So why don't we wrap this show up? We've got our December 26th screw around episode with Die Hard is Not a Christmas Movie. And we've also got, I'm going to try a New Year's live stream of Lego building of I don't know what, because I'm going to the Lego store that morning to see what's new and what I can get my hands on. So we got a lot of fun stuff coming up, don't we, buddy?
Yes, it is. It's definitely going to be cool. Your WTF Fridays with, which this one would be what, WTF Saturday at this point, correct? 'Cause
Monday. Wait, New Year's Day is when?
You're doing it on New Year's Day?
Sunday, right?
Yeah, that'd be a Sunday. So WTF Sunday. And then, this coming Monday here in just a few days, we're doing kind of an off show, but I'm going to be promoting it everywhere. And I've been arguing with a lot of my friends about why Die Hard is not a fucking Christmas movie. And so I was like, screw this. I'm taking it to the show. So it's happening. And I'm going to explain in detail why it's not a Christmas movie. It shouldn't need explaining, but we will explain it. And then just talk about whatever the hell we want to talk about and have some drinks. So it's definitely going to be a spirited episode. So
I see that works on a couple levels. Spirits, I get it.
Yep, and Christmas spirit. See, I'm good at that stuff, man. That's why I host a show. So, so before we get out of here, dude, thank you for letting me pick this topic, because pontificating about one of my all-time favorite movies, I never get to do that. So doing it on our show is really cool. So thanks for going along with the topic idea. I appreciate it. And to all you guys watching the show tonight, tuning in, and all you guys checking out the audio version, thank you for checking it out. We hope every single one of you guys has an incredibly Merry Christmas or Happy Holiday, whatever you celebrate. Hopefully it's wonderful for you guys and your friends and family. So, remember, if you're watching on YouTube, click that like button, click that subscribe button, smash the notification bell. If you're listening to the audio replay, go to our YouTube channel and give us a follow. Subscribe to the channel. That way you can see all of our video replays. And, hey, jump into a live show and have your comment brought up on the screen. Be a part of the conversation. Again, as usual, guys, we are brought to you by Audible. So go to audibletrial.com/NHC for your 30-day trial and a free audiobook download. And go get some customizable Nerf Herder Council swag at shop.nerfherdercouncil.com. Those of you with keen eyes may notice that AJ's wearing a custom Nerf Herder Council t-shirt today. So he's got the Marvel logo in red. So that's pretty cool. You
Yep.
guys can do that. There's any number of colors and designs and items that you can customize. So go get that for yourself. It looks great. And we will see you guys on Monday, December 26th at 8:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time right here on YouTube and Facebook as we explain to you, we educate the masses as to why Die Hard is not a Christmas movie. And guys, we'll see you on Monday. And until then, very happy holidays from AJ and I. Love you, appreciate you, and we'll see you next time.